City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
Council meeting to order. Joanna, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Downing.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dodge.
Here.
Councilmember Snetzinger will be absent. Councilmember Mollica.
Here.
Councilmember Sowers.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Becky Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Whitman.
Here.
Councilmember Escobar.
Here.
Thank you. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jim, do we have any responses to citizens' inquiry this evening?
Yes, we do actually.
Right.
So there's some information I included in your packet, so I'm not going to read all of that. But July 24th, we had several citizens come to the council meeting from the Claude Court area, basically between 112th and 120th. And they expressed a lot of concerns about traffic and speeding in the area. And so staff put together some information for you to look at. We have already communicated this information to Ms. Shea. And the bottom line is that the memo explains that there were 5 locations that met the criteria under the traffic calming policy. And what that means is that we initiated not only a speed study, but that speed study met the requirements to go to the next level, which is the petition stage. So one of the questions I think that came up a few weeks ago was from Ms. Shea, do I really need to go out and contact 300 people to get these petitions signed? And the threshold that I will clarify is you need 75% of those households to sign your petition. So in this case, it'd be well over 200. And initially when we were talking, we thought that might be a little onerous. But if you'll see from the map in here, Claude Court is such a long street, and we only went 1 block into the west, and it really picked up about 300 homes. And so any improvements or enhancements we would make to that street could affect potentially 300 homes that would use that street, if not more. So the real thing we want to get back to you tonight is the report that we've responded back to the citizens, but also to ask you, do you need more information on this, or is this sufficient? And then secondly, do you want to schedule a study session on the traffic calming policy to revisit the decision you made last year? And we can go from there.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions for the city manager at this point? Yes, Becky.
I have 2 questions for you. All the houses that sign the petition must be on Claude Court? Are they the only ones that can sign it?
No, the map identifies houses on Claude Court, and then we actually gave that map to Ms. Shea, which actually includes all of the cross streets for about a block. So maybe 8 to 10 homes on either side of the street, a block west of Claude Court. So she can get those signatures from anyone in that map area.
And right now we have it at 75%?
Correct, that's what the policy states.
That'll do me for now.
Okay. Anyone else? Kira.
So I wasn't here for the first discussion on this, but I am wondering, how are you figuring the number of houses? Because it seems arbitrary to go in an entire block to me, but I'm sure that you have a formula that you're using. Can you just enlighten me of what that is?
Yeah, I might put David on the spot to try to answer that. I know we adapted this from San Jose, California, was where the original policy came from. And I'll defer to him on the specifics of how we do the counting.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, it's not arbitrary, but it's really based on professional standards, area of influence on the street. So there is, I would say, some discretion involved in determining what that area of influence is, but it's sort of standard nationally how you do that. And there's lots and lots of cities that have traffic calming policies. And when I was looking around trying to model ours, I picked pieces and parts out of the San Jose one. And the area, there's no real specific definition for determining the area of influence except for experience in traffic analysis.
Right, but just considering, and I know you can't make it easier on one person than another person, but it just seems like this one is so high, and we've included so many houses that are off of Claude Court. It seems like the main concern is just Claude Court and just the houses butting up. I don't know, that was probably a high number, I didn't count it, but it seems like that would be enough on a petition.
Well, 112th place plays into that Claude Court.
Right.
Yeah, it just so happens that Northglenn has several very, very long residential collector streets. And that's why it plays into this, because everybody from 120th to 112th would have some effect on whatever you do on Claude Court. Yeah, it would be the same for Melody, excuse me.
I think in this instance too, looking at the map, just visually you can see that if you lived on this side of the line, you'd probably go to Claude Court to get out of the neighborhood. If you live over here, you'd go to Irma. And so the line was kind of drawn down the middle where people would make decisions of which way to go. That was kind of the rationale.
It's just a daunting task, and I can understand the residents' concern about having to gather that many names on a petition, so thank you.
Now, is the petition, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is the petition, when they're around their neighbors, right, asking to sign the petition, are they having a petition signed to consider the options or stating that they need it? I'm sorry, I didn't look at that part, Jim, if it was in there. What exactly is their petition? What are they asking for in the petition?
They're asking for, would they be receptive to some traffic calming measure? There's not a specific remedy, but if you look at the report, it's a fairly thick council memo, but that's only one traffic study. That's on the Claude Court. There's 5 other ones, and they're just like this. And in the back of that report, we give examples of what might be installed on Claude Court if a majority of the residents that are in that area of influence would like to see that happen. And the next step would be if you gathered 75% of the people on Claude Court, we would bring that to an engineering group and look at this more closely and come back to council with a menu of choices varying in cost and what that effect would be for the cost. And that's how we come to some sort of decision of what we'd install in Claude Court. All in budget driven at the end.
Right. I understand, my personal opinion is that we have to take it to a study session. We have to proceed with this, because once the end line starts going up there, it's going to be worse than it is right now. I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but with the traffic and everything that goes this way. That's the end line, right? It goes north by my house?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that at this point, we need to do a study session, and I'm sure that the residents will be out there getting their signatures. So just so you know.
What would you be looking for in the study session?
Well, you know what, I think it may just be me that I need some clarity, but Jim had mentioned, do you want to bring it forward in a study session? So,
So the intent of that question for you is, do you want to revisit the traffic calming policy you adopted last year? And so we could probably talk about the 5 areas that met the requirements as way of example, but I think the question that I'm asking is the 75% threshold too high? I don't think the number of homes that we've put on the map is too high necessarily based on traffic, but is 75% too high? Or do you even want to require the petition at all? If not, then there would be a different discussion about what is the city's role. Is it hosting neighborhood meetings? Is it that type of thing we'd be needing to have a discussion on?
okay.
I know this isn't necessarily a discussion, but in my view, I think the 75% is probably a good thing, because, if you look at Short Street and you require 30% or whatever, that's only a few houses, but you need a majority, and it's a bad thing that Claude Court is such a long street and has so many houses, but I think the 75% would be.
Yeah, and it shows.
It's going to take some work, but.
Yeah, and I think the goal is, and what I would highly recommend staying with is getting majority of the people on the street, getting them involved in the project.
Okay.
So, and I'm thinking too, 75% may be a number that we could live with, but do we want to continue having the burden on the citizen versus maybe the city taking a different, role in it? So I think there's a lot of unanswered questions that we might take a look at, and for me, I'd like to bring it to a study session too. And it's just not Claude Court. I mean, we've got Melody, we've got Irma Drive, we've got Claude Court, and there are some other streets. High Street is another long one. So there's quite a few streets that probably would be difficult to get, contact with all these owners. So I think maybe we have to take a look at what we're doing.
But how would you feel about these people going forward with what they have under the guidelines that are in here now?
But that's part of the problem, is that they are having an issue trying to contact 300 and some people, so.
That's fine, Bridget,
I'm thinking taking to a study site. I mean, we can definitely take a look at waiving, this particular area, or just look at a certain section of Claude Court, but that's not going to help the north or the south end, or the middle, whichever one they select, so. I think it needs a longer discussion rather than tonight. That's my personal opinion.
How fast could we get it, I'm sorry, how fast could we get it on the study session?
Unfortunately, we lose Labor Day. I was going to target September 18th, give staff time to pull some more information together. Namely, we'd probably provide all the traffic studies and the maps for all the 5 areas that have met the requirements.
Do you know with school starting on Wednesday, I'm so sorry.
Yes, there.
With school starting on Wednesday, are we gonna have some extra service on our streets over there?
I don't know specifically. I'd ask the chief to answer that one, but I do know what we completed just today. You may have seen some of them.
Awesome.
We invested a very small amount of money out of the planning department's budget to create these snipe signs, which are branded with our logo that say "Schools in Session," give kids a break, I think was the sign. And we distributed those to the schools, and they were posted all over. And we're going to pick them up so we can use them every year. So it was a good small investment that we're trying to make to slow people down.
Very much, Jim. It's the first thing I pointed out when I drove off of my street was we got hit with 3 of them. Beautiful.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Right.
But I would, if we're already having a speeding problem on Claude, I would like to have a little bit more presence over the next, week or so.
All right. Anyone else? Marcy, did you have a hand?
So I think I would be in favor of revisiting it for study. I don't know necessarily that I'm in favor of decreasing the 75%, though I think 307 is steep. I think we hear a balance from residents that, oh, I really want speed bumps, I really want all these things, and then you hear the other side that say, no, I don't want these because they damage my car. And so I think that, there's got to be skin in the game on both sides to get those. But I'd be curious if you know how many requests that we got kind of on average about speed control prior to us doing the new policy, because we did heavily promote this new policy, and did that increase the number of requests because the policy is now out there? How many people were calling about these issues prior to?
Yeah, I don't have that exact information here. I don't think the rate has increased or decreased. I think it's stayed the same. Every time we get a request for some sort of traffic calming device, we'll open up a traffic operation request, what we call a TOR, and we'll start the initiation and look into that. So I can certainly, in the study session or sooner, provide council with how many requests that we get per month. I think you'll see that they're rather have continuity to them.
Okay. And more so just for the study session, I didn't expect you to know the number off the top of your head. But I'd be in favor in visiting it for a study session.
Anything here?
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, study session.
Okay, we'll bring it back.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any agenda additions or deletions from council? All right. Next on the agenda is public invited to be heard. No one signed up, but I'm just going to ask, is there anyone who wants to speak to council for up to 5 minutes on anything other than the public hearing? All right, no one? Okay, Jason, financial report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Here for the second quarter financial update. Start off with an update on sales and use tax midway through the year. Year-to-date collections are at $8.6 million, which is flat compared to the prior year. I will note that the prior year was up 6.7 over 2015, so over a 2-year period, we're up about 3.5% year if you look at it that way, rather than trying to beat a year where you're up 6.7%. Can be kind of hard to do on an ongoing basis. Within that number, again, sales tax is flat, auto use tax is up 5.7%, accommodations tax is up 3.5%, and then food tax is up 2.2%. We had some one-time revenues in the prior year from audit revenue, and that's down about $70,000 year over year, which kind of plays into the kind of the reconciliation of sales and use tax being down, or I guess it's not down, it's flat. It's actually up by about $2,000, so. Is there any questions on sales and use tax?
I'm expecting sales tax to take off.
You're expecting this?
Yeah, Kid to Kid and some other stores that we have coming in this year.
Okay. I agree. It's gonna go upwards.
It's gonna go to the roof.
Yes, Carol.
Can you give me any kind of, or not just me, us, a preview of, you probably know where July is coming in. Can you just tell us where July is coming in? Because I'm really curious and concerned about the trending that it's doing, so.
Yeah, July is gonna come in at the same level. It's flat for the year.
Flat, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that'll actually be through, these numbers are through May, since the May is collected in June, so for a full 6 months, it leveled off and is at flat. But I think that we'll start to
Rebound.
rise here in the second half of the year.
Okay. And Jason, for a little bit of clarity, I mean, it's not just Northglenn that's flat.
It's not just Northglenn. I spoke to our neighboring community, and they're also flat
Right.
for the year, so, yep. It's a regional thing, I guess.
Yes.
I'll start off with the general fund. On the fund side of things, total revenues are at $11 million, and then total expenditures are also at $11 million. You see a net change in fund balance of negative $54,000 if we were to end the year right now, which we're not. Total revenue in the general fund is down about 2% for the year. A large piece of that was the land sale that we had last year at 120th and I-25. The right-of-way, there's $280,000 of revenue that was included, but otherwise sales tax and then all other revenues are flat. On the expenditure side, things are falling in line. Spending rate is at 45% this year. That hovers around 43 to 45% year over year. And no spending in the general fund looks out of the ordinary from what we'd expect from the budget, and then looking from one year to the next. Are there any questions on general fund revenues, either on the slideshow or in the other packet?
Questions?
All right. Moving along, the Conservation Trust Fund, again, these are lottery proceeds. Total revenues at $188,000, expenditures of $9,000. Again, this large budget is for Northwest open space improvements we've been talking about for a while. Revenues are in line with historical averages through the year as well. On the Capital Projects Fund, you can see more detail on page 26 of the packet on each of those expenditures. Revenues at $2.4 million and expenditures of $3.4. You'll see the other financing sources and uses, that large number in the budget change, and then the actual, those are for the Justice Center, the COPs that were issued, and then we record that revenue and expenditure for these fund financials. And kind of show the entire lump sum of the income coming in and the expenditure that's going to go out. So that's a little bit different than how we normally see things. On that front, the 3.4 million of expenditures, 2.5 million of that's on the Justice Center. There's also a street program, residential street program that we'll see moving forward more in July and August reports. And then Fox Run Open Space, just kind of highlight a few of the larger expenditures in the fund. The water and wastewater funds, again, revenues at $5.4 million with expenditures of 7.6. 3.6% of that, or 3.6 million of that is on the capital projects side of things. Again, more detail on page 27 of your packet to make up the 3.6 million. Overall, revenues in this fund are generally steady. Water use revenues up 4.6%. And then the food tax, again, on the taxes side is up 2% that falls into this fund's recording. Really, all other activity is consistent with what we had planned. And then on the stormwater fund, revenues of $190,000 and expenditures of $94,000. Expenditures are up slightly, just on some studies of Grange Hall Creek that we didn't have last year. So that adds a little bit of a difference year over year, about $30,000 total in that fund. So a net change in fund balance through June of $96,000 to the positive. And then the sanitation fund revenues, $866,000, expenditures of $547,000. Again, revenues are performing as we'd expect based off the 2017 budget. And then expenditures are down around $325,000 year over year. And that's one-time capital purchases that were made in 2016 and not in 2017 yet. So again, sales tax and most of the revenues are flat across all of the funds. The last time we reported the first quarter, I think that number on the geographic codes was about 67% of the geocodes were down. We're climbing back out of it. About 43% of them are down. About half of the geocodes in town are down. But I think they're all trending positive, from where we started the year, which is a good thing. And then cash and investments that we have stayed flat month over month, and that's about $56 million. And that's actually the same amount that we had invested last year at this time. So with that, I can take any other questions or go over.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, thank you very much, Jason.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move to the consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is public hearings. Joanna?
This is on CB 1893, a bill for an ordinance amending Article 14 and Article 16 of Chapter 18 of the Northglenn Municipal Code concerning the authorized hours of operation for marijuana businesses.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing on CB 1893, and I'll call your name in order that you signed up. So Casey, would you come forward, please?
First off, I want to thank the council and the city of Northglenn for letting us come and speak today. My name is Casey Efting, and I'm the regional manager for the Green Solution here in Colorado. I wanted to bring a unique perspective from someone who's had the opportunity to not only work at a facility here in Northglenn, where I started my career, but I've also had the opportunity to open up dispensaries in Aurora and Edgewater, who operate under an extended hour model. The reality of what we do is we offer a product to customers, and we like to make sure that it's a safe, friendly environment that they can come and see us anytime they want. And having facilities that are able to operate past 7 or 8 o'clock opens up those doors to people who may have jobs that run a little bit later, responsibilities at home. But overall, it brings in more opportunity for people to see us and have safe, friendly access to the products they're looking for. Like I said, I've spent over a year in Aurora. They operate from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. every single day. Also spent about a year in Edgewater, who is extremely unique with being able to operate from 8 in the morning until midnight every day of the year. As far as an employee, my safety was always number one. Of course, for my employees, I want to make sure they were comfortable. And in each one of these facilities I've worked at and opened up, there's really no difference in the way we operate or the safety precautions we have to take, because it continues to be business as usual. The same types of customers come through. At the end of the day, it's opportunity to keep your residents local into your businesses.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, next is Brad. Brad Spidell.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. My name is Brad Spidell, and I'm one of the owners of the Green Solution in Colorado. And I'm here just to reiterate the fact that we continue to see no additional crime or issues during these extended operating hours. Obviously, to reiterate the fact that we do have stores in Aurora up until 10 p.m., currently Edgewater till 12 a.m. Just really no additional activities. We also keep asset protection associates on site at all times, obviously circling the building. And across the board from a revenue perspective, we have seen quite a bit of an additional revenue come through having extended those hours. So I just wanted to mention that to you guys as you make your decision tonight.
Thank you. All right, next we have Tim Morgan.
Making sure that I won't miss any numbers. Honored Mayor, City Council of Northglenn, thank you for having me this evening. My name is Tim Morgan. I'm the Director of Community Relations for Beaker Dispensaries. We are operating here in Northglenn on 11450 Cherokee Street. I'm here tonight to talk against expanding the hours here in Northglenn. I'll try to explain a little bit about our reasoning behind that. Since cannabis has become legal, marijuana has become legal in 2014, we have thankfully been experiencing a lot of financial growth in the state of Colorado, and we have also been able to keep the casualties or the risk to our communities to an absolute minimum. I think that it is very wise in the discussion when we're talking about the cities that have allowed for sales of cannabis after 8 o'clock to remind people that the city of Edgewater is 445 acres large. It is in a highly urbanized areas with no access to interstates, highways, or anything like that. Glendale, which is the other city that also has had more than 8 o'clock, is also a tiny little place of 371 acres. I think that it's very, very difficult to make direct comparisons to Northglenn, that is a size of 7.5 square miles. The location of the city is in the northern part of the Denver region. There is less urbanized areas very close to the city of Northglenn. That is not the problem in Edgewater. And in Aurora, if that would be the closest example, it's a city much bigger than Northglenn. Unfortunately, what did happen last year on 18th of June was that a security guard, not a customer or anybody, but a security guy working for a dispensary was shot at 9:44 in the evening during the summer. They never caught the guys. They're still out there, rewarded for $55,000. We are extremely concerned that, first of all, we don't believe that it will increase the revenue to an extent that it will be led to believe. But we're also very concerned about how we as an industry will be perceived not only in Colorado but across the nation and across the world, because the rest of us, I'm a Danish national, I can tell you everything that the world is looking on Colorado, and we're really concerned about initiatives that might jeopardize us from our point of view, both from being a sober and decent operator, but also for the sake and the safety of the neighborhoods. That is really most of what I have to say today. So we realize that if this will be passed, We don't want to have a part of it, and we will continue to operate until 8 o'clock. If the tragic thing happened that did in Aurora 13 months ago, at least we can say that we've done our part. So thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. All right, next we have Salim. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Salim Sacker. I'm the general manager of the Northglenn Green Solution. I wanted to talk about a couple things. People who shop at our store, they love our store. We've had only one negative review in the last 3 months. There's something about our store that has people coming back. We have great people, we have great products, and unfortunately, sometimes around 7:45 when we lock our doors, we're turning a lot of people away. We're scrambling to make sure that they get taken care of and know where other locations are by providing them discounts. But I think the main thing that I'm witnessing as being somebody in the business day in and day out is that people want our store to be open later and earlier so that they can shop more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next we have Chris.
Hello, Madam Mayor and honorable city councilors of Northglenn. I am the mayor of Edgewater. I just wanted to come up here and lend anything that I can of our experiences in Edgewater. I could be provincial and tell you that we have had numerous problems and not to do this. But as it stands, I am a regionalist, and I also sit on the Homelessness and Hunger Committee with your esteemed mayor and the Metro Mayor's Caucus. So that being said, we immediately went with our hours from 8 a.m. to 12 midnight, and 71% of our constituents voted in favor of that. So that was our walking papers. Obviously, the tax revenue has been good for us. I could get granular in the nature of what we've done, but basically we have put toward fixed assets and not rolled those into the general fund or operational funds due to the ambiguity of this experiment. But just going forward, I want to just say that we have had 99.9% positive experience with our hours, have basically had no trouble. Obviously, you've done this experience as well, and our midnight shifts really are posing no detrimental effects to our largely residential community, which is in fact less than 1 square mile. And we're just located less than a square mile, or less than 1 mile from I-70. So I think we serve quite a bit of Jeffco in the late night hours, and hardworking folks that are waiting tables, bussing tables, working in factories till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. They want to go on their way and go home and buy some product. You know, they can stop by Edgewater, and maybe on the northeast side they can stop by Northglenn too. So if you have any questions going forward, I am at your service on any policy or granular level. So thank you for at least considering this measure.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And I may not have been listening correctly, but are you for or against this?
For.
Oh, I'm for this.
Then I heard you wrong when you first stood up here. I thought you were saying don't do it.
I am a
Did anybody
regionalist.
else hear that? Or?
No.
Wow.
Yes.
Must have drifted off into Joey land.
Right. My apologies for not being as
No,
succinct.
it's my fault.
All right. Thanks so much for, oh, you're going to ask a question?
Yes.
How many licensed stores do you have?
We have 6 within 1 square mile. All 6 are operating until midnight. So, and, you know, just for the record, I was the one that actually asked for the cap, so we didn't inundate. And we want to obviously make sure that our economic portfolio in Edgewater is diverse, because we collect absolutely 0 mill levy from our citizens. We live and die on our sales tax.
Do you have any numbers related to crime at all? Or do you know any? I'm sorry.
You know, no, thank you. Our DUIs are up, but that also goes with a 20% increase in sales tax across the board, added congestion, as I think someone else who testified. We are an urban area. We are right next door to Denver. We won a national award for DUI enforcement. When I talk to our DRE officer, most of the arrests, which I cannot give hard data and I apologize, but most of the arrests are mostly contributed to alcohol, and if it is marijuana, it is related directly to alcohol.
Can I do one more?
You can.
So, how many liquor stores do you have in your 1.2 mile city?
Let's see here. 4 or 5, I do believe. And we also have quite a few bars and restaurants.
Okay. I was just kind of curious. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Yes, Carol?
Did you receive any negative feedback about extending the hours to midnight?
No, we went with them right away. And it was precarious. We went out on a limb with this, but I think with the tax revenue that have come out of it just on the municipal level has been very positive for us, and we've been very frugal with allocating those resources. Police cars, we paved our entire streets with that, and now everything that is going from here on out will be to a new civic center, which will include a public library, a police station, and a rec center, and a new city hall. Because if you ever want to come down and tour our facilities, it's sorely needed. But as in, obviously a state or regional level, when we're talking packaging or distribution to children, yes, that is an issue, but I think that belongs on the state level. And we also do drug sweeps in conjunction with the Jeffco K-9 unit, Jeffco County K-9 unit, and in the 3 years that we've done that, we have found one Chiba Chew on one kid. They're working class kids. They have jobs and they're trying to get an education. They don't have time to do drugs and other stuff. So we're really proud of that.
Just for clarity, you never did have hours that ended at 8 o'clock?
No, we went to midnight right away.
You just went right to midnight?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And now Denver went to 10 o'clock, and we're going to lose a little bit of revenue. But I think in the overall situation of policy and moving our state forward, that one, this experience of the war on drugs, in my opinion, is a complete failure. And two, I think regulation, and yes, we have problems with the black market and the gray market. But again, that's a state issue, and I want to see this experiment move forward and benefit more municipalities.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks for driving up here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, next we have Richard Pfeiffer. Richard?
I guess that's your agenda. Esteemed Mayor, City Council people, I'd like to start by saying that we respect and actually admire the Green Solutions Squad. You guys are really killing it, and you're great. And we really do admire it. And we believe they've spoken from their heart what they believe to be true. We've thought about this very carefully, and we've come to a little bit different conclusions. And we may be wrong, but this is what we think. There are people who use marijuana regularly, and we're open from 8 to 8, something like that, 9 to 8, 8 to 8, 12 hours, 11 hours. Everyone's got some time, most people have some time during that period to buy it if they want it. So we think that if you extend the hours, some people will find it more convenient to buy later, and so there will be people buying later. But those people aren't additional tax money or additional income for the store. So where's the additional income going to come from? It's the people who are out in the evening doing something and deciding to buy marijuana. That's how we see it. And typically those are people in a bar, or a lot, often. I was one once, okay? I'm ashamed of it now, but that's who I was, and I have to admit it.
Never be ashamed of where you came from.
Okay, well, I went through some things that weren't the best behavior.
It doesn't matter, dude, you're here right now.
Okay, well, thank you. but it wasn't the best behavior. But at any rate, I understand that behavior, and I happen to have personal beliefs a little different than everyone else. My family won't get in my car with me driving unless I have smoked marijuana. Otherwise, I'm a pretty aggressive driver. On marijuana, I'm a delightful driver. But as bad a driver as I am on alcohol, I am much worse if I mix marijuana and alcohol. Those two things together create a very, very dangerous driver in my view. I'm speaking from personal experience and from the experience of many of my friends. I think that the idea of having people in bars drinking, being able to walk down the street and buy pot is not a good one. That's it. I'm sorry I have that opinion, but that's how we feel. Yes, ma'am?
Who is we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Richard Pfeffer from, I'm the managing partner of Be Good Ventures LLC.
I'm sorry, I hadn't met you before.
I'm sorry. We have another dispensary in Northglenn. And it won't matter. I mean, the good thing is it's permissive. I mean, they can stay open if you pass it and we cannot. But it is a community issue, and that's why we're speaking on it. We feel that the community is better served to not have that possibility out there.
Anyone else? Kyle?
Yeah, I want to make sure that I heard you right. And so, because we're talking about community safety, obviously, I think is a big thing. Did you say that you drive after you've smoked marijuana?
I said that if I have smoked marijuana, people will get in my car with me. I put it in the, I said would.
Because I think that that's a big, for me, and I don't know how much of an effect as this is, I want to make sure that we're not encouraging or condoning any type of driving.
What I'm saying to you is that I feel that the law is incorrect on that point. It is actually a benefit to some people in their driving. That's my feeling. That has nothing to do with my behavior. I'm talking about what I feel is true. I also feel it's true that marijuana mixed with alcohol creates one of the worst drivers on the road. And I feel that people who are out drinking and decide to go buy marijuana, I don't think that's good for us. Look, if you're a business person and you sell marijuana, you can say, well, the bars can be open and people can buy booze, why shouldn't we be able to sell? And the only thing I say is they were there first. And, I think the two together is not that great. And they were there first. They have it. You're not going to take it away from them. I don't want to add our thing to that and make it a worse situation. I believe it'll create a worse situation.
All right. Is there any?
I'm done there.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much. All right. That's the end of those that signed up, but I will ask one more time. Is there anyone else who would like to speak either for or against CB 1893 at this point?
Good evening. My name is Tyler. I am the Operations Director and General Manager for Natural Selections Dispensary.
Would you speak a little bit louder?
Sorry. There we go. We are definitely for the extended hours, and we are ironically directed right next door to a liquor store, and I don't think that would cause any sort of safety issues. We turn down anyone who we feel is intoxicated by any means, and we do not serve those people. We always have an armed guard present, and we have never experienced any sort of safety issues or robberies or threats or anything of that sort. And we feel like our security guards definitely deter that type of behavior. So I just wanted to speak in favor.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, at the beginning, when we couldn't hear you, I couldn't hear what you were representing, where you're from.
From Natural Selections Dispensary.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to council, either for or against CB 1893?
Hi, everybody. My name is Todd Mitchum, also with the Green Solution. Since I kind of started this debate a while back, I thought I'd come in and kind of put it into it as well. A couple things. You make a great point that it is and would be optional, so businesses who feel that it's a concern for them certainly have the option to not participate in a later hour. The gentleman who came up earlier was here last time and also mentioned he changed his mind and now wanted it to be earlier in the morning. So again, it's optional, so it's not something you have to do. With regard to the comments that were made about alcohol, I do a lot of speaking around the country with attorneys general, reporting on these issues. Alcohol crashes related with marijuana are actually down in this state, and frankly, the marijuana consumer is very different than the alcohol consumer. Marijuana consumers, by nature, do not want to consume when they are in their car. They want to get somewhere safe, usually at home, since we don't have any state laws that would allow for anyone to consume in public. So they don't want to breach that. They want to get home. They want to do it safely. The other argument that's really critical is that there are people, they've been in the store, they talk to us at other locations, that they don't, frankly, have time from 8 a.m. to 10 or to 8 p.m. I myself, I have 3 kids. I'm married. We have a life. We're very busy, and there are some times when we have to go later. We can't go during the day. It's just not the way it works. So to generalize all families, all drivers, not everyone consumes marijuana like this gentleman said he might do. So to generalize that seems dangerous to me. When overall, hearing from the mayor of Edgewater and hearing from others, this is actually a big benefit for the consumers and for the community. And we'd love to help you keep driving that fund up, I mean, honestly. So I want to thank you for this. I just want to thank you because I came in and started this whole conversation. So I appreciate all of you, all the time you put into this. And this is what makes America great. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak to council on CV 1893, either for or against? All right.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to note for the record that we did receive a letter via email from Ms. Henny Lasley from Smart Colorado. So a copy of that letter and the attachments have been placed on the dais for council.
Okay. And was that either for or against?
It's against.
It's against?
Yep.
All right. All right, is there anyone else? No? And thank you, Joanna. I will close the public hearing on CV 1893, and we will move to ordinance's second reading. Joanna?
And this is on CB 1893, a bill for an ordinance amending Article 14 and Article 16 of Chapter 18 of the Northglenn Municipal Code concerning the authorized hours of operation for marijuana businesses.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Again, just to frame the issue that's in front of you tonight, again, this is a proposal to amend sections 184020 and 181622 of the municipal code by revising the hours of operation for both medical and retail marijuana businesses. Again, the state of Colorado establishes hours of operation which may occur between 8 a.m. and midnight, subject to local ordinance. And currently our municipal code restricts both medical and retail marijuana from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. And again, the first reading was approved on July 24th. That would extend the hours to 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., so 1 hour earlier and 2 hours later. And there are several options in front of you which you could approve, table, or deny the ordinance tonight.
Those hours correct?
Mm-hmm.
Then here I go again.
8 to 10.
I believe so.
Okay.
At least we left them there until the discussion. So, all right. Anything else, Jim?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, discussion? All right, go ahead.
Hi, Jim.
Becky?
I pulled up the rules, the laws according to the liquor code here in Northglenn, and I'm not seeing the hours of operations for the liquor stores on that. So can you just share that with me?
I don't know those off the top of my head, but I'm assuming they close at 2 a.m. I'm not sure the opening time, though.
They're authorized to stay open till 2.
And is there a particular time that they have to wait to open, like, Kohl's, 10 o'clock?
8 a.m.
So the liquor stores are open from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m.?
Is that by?
No, that's
I thought it was
the
till
liquor at the bars. So the
midnight.
Sorry, I don't go.
So the liquor stores are till midnight.
So
Liquor
is it-
stores are, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's right, I was wondering, is that state statute or is that Northglenn? Okay, that's,
So
go ahead.
8 in the morning till midnight for the liquor stores is state statute?
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that I understand it correctly.
Right.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? Yes, Marcy?
Mayor, I just wanted to say that I always appreciate how involved our marijuana businesses have been, whether it's been when we had our roundtables and making decisions initially, when we brought folks back. I just always appreciate how involved you are and that you come out But I have to just say that every time I hear this conversation about the one incident that happened at one of the marijuana dispensaries with the security guard, it just kind of gets me because we've had it, 6, 7 years? And to have one incident be what is thrown out as being the reason for not doing something or not extending hours, just to me, I mean, that could be said about a gas station, it could be said about a financial company that was down the street on 112th in broad daylight, and I just think you're stereotyping your own customer. So for me, that claim just doesn't work. But I am in favor of extending the hours till 10.
Anyone else? Kyle?
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't know, I mean, I do think that this has something to do with it. Obviously, a concern was brought up with operating a vehicle under the influence. And so I think that I'm not against the extension of the hours. I think that the marijuana industry has been a good example of how it's supposed to be ran here in Northglenn. But I would like to see us, with the extension of the hours and with some of the comments that were made tonight, what it might look like to do some outreach of just being more aware that you're not supposed to operate a vehicle while you're high on marijuana or right after you've smoked marijuana. And so just with that extension and, you know, going later into the night, I think I wouldn't mind seeing that. And I don't know if that's a city thing or a business-driven thing, but that's something I would like to see.
Anyone else? Carol?
I'm definitely okay extending it to 10. For me, midnight would be a stretch, and I would definitely need to consider that after we have it open till 10 for a while to see how it goes. I just personally hate to put the extra strain on the police department. I have a business that's in an area that's not that great at nighttime, and you know, we've got cameras out there and we have all kinds of activity that happens at nighttime, and granted, probably a lot of it is later at night. I'm not saying it's going to happen, I'm just saying I'm erring on the side of conservatism at this point, and 10 o'clock is, if 8 to 10 is good, midnight, we'd have to discuss again, so.
Okay. Jordan?
Mary, just a quick question. I know we had talked about there was only one with a security guard, correct, in our city that out of all 5.
They all
They all have security.
And they will pay them through, obviously, the close of business, which would be 10 o'clock. Awesome, thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor, with the security guard question, they all have security guards, but it's not a requirement to
It's
operate.
not a requirement,
But,
but they do have security also, which is a requirement.
yeah, the cameras, but the actual guard.
Right.
The people and the product, you know?
Okay.
So they all have security guards
Or
I wouldn't
security
know, but I
cameras.
think
or
so.
security
They have
cameras,
certain types of
Kinda
security,
mentioned
but
it.
they all have security.
but one has a guard. Or no one
How
has a
many
guard.
have security personnel on site? How many? Okay, all right.
So Be
Because
Good
of the
does it.
type of the business.
Okay,
Just
so,
one does it. Okay, thank you.
okay,
Can I ask a question?
of course.
I'm sorry, I have to ask questions, and I was wondering if I could ask it of the chief, actually.
Chief?
If he's still here.
Yes, he's here.
Look at him.
Hi, Jim, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I was curious as to, of the DUIs that have happened here in the city of Northglenn, how many of them are for marijuana use over alcohol, or do we not
I will
track
have to
it?
get you those numbers.
Okay, I appreciate it if you do. You don't have them off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
Shame on you.
All right, is there any other discussion?
Mayor?
Yes?
I just have a question. Can we pose a question to one of the people
Yes,
that testified? To the mayor of Edgewater, do you mind
Mayor
coming up real
Chris?
quick? Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Does Edgewater require any security guard presence in your dispensaries? Is there a requirement at all, or is it just the cameras?
We do not require, basically, you know, and this is interesting thing, we did not reinvent the wheel what already the state statutes. But I would say, I think all of ours do have security guards, and if not, they have bulletproof glass, and their entryways are extremely hard to get into. So there are, for them, for a crime to take place, for people to rob a store is almost virtually impossible due to their own security measures that they had put in. To get to the cash They'd have to go through a front door, then through a screening process, and then finally get in. So they've done a great job with security, and I think one person at the beginning was robbed of $20 outside of a store in 2013, and somebody tried to throw a brick through one of the windows, but they didn't get, and that was after store hours. So we've had absolutely no issues. Although someone did a smash and grab in our pawn store and stole a bunch of guns. That was disconcerting. So, yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Corey, is there anything in state legislature that requires security?
Security, yes, not security guards.
Not security guards, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I'm just going to make a comment that in the beginning of all this discussion, I was extremely concerned about extending the hours. But I have to tell you, we have reached out to the community, and it is all the businesses here, and/or an organization that deals with the youth, which is Smart Co. So, but none of the community members have come to us one more time. So that changes my mind about, I don't think the community is concerned. That's the message I am hearing. So I just want to make that comment. All right, any other discussion? All right, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote. My mouse was going crazy. Hold on a second.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1893 on second reading passes with one no vote cast by Councilmember Escobar.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have ordinances first reading, CB 1895.
Bill for a special ordinance rezoning from C4 conditional commercial to planned unit development, certain real property in the city of Northglenn located at 10701 Washington Street in the county of Adams, state of Colorado, and amending the zoning map of the city of Northglenn.
Second.
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Again, this is a first reading for rezoning, so if it passes through tonight, there'll be a second reading and a public hearing, which will include a formal staff presentation. This is a proposal to rezone the property at the northwest corner of Washington Street and Garland Drive from C4 commercial to PUD. And this is for the relocation of the Starbucks Container Store, which is on 104th, which would be moved over to this location. If you recall, you approved a zoning case that's going to improve the Belco property with a new Starbucks, and so this one has a different use now being planned. The Planning Commission is actually hearing this tomorrow night, when they'll be hearing the preliminary and the final PUD. And then if you move this forward, it would come back to you within the next couple of weeks for second reading on August 28th. So again, staff is recommending approval to the Planning Commission tomorrow night, and we recommend that you approve this on first reading as well. Becky Smith is here from the Planning Department to answer any questions you may have as well.
Thank you. Discussion? Yes,
Not a
Marcy.
discussion, just more or less a comment. I think it's wonderful that we're able to keep this box store here in Northglenn. I think it was cool to watch it come in and be dropped down with the crane, and I think it might be cool to watch it again. So if we can get some idea of when that might happen, I personally would love to see it. And the only better place I can think of it would be in front of my house.
It's nice to see that lot being used over by Walmart.
Yes.
So.
All right. I don't know, is Debbie going to tell us something? Oh, no. Oh, no? All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CB 1895 on first reading passes unanimously. And I would like to note for the record that the public hearing on CB 1895 will be held on August 28th, 2017 here in City Hall Council Chambers.
Thank you. Next is resolutions, and the first one, CR 82.
A resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Northglenn and Adams County School District Number 12 for a joint school resource officer program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Again, this is a resolution to enter into an IGA with the School District 12 for the 2017-18 school year for the School Resource Officer Program. Again, it sets forth a financial sharing of 1/2 of 3 officers being paid by the school district in the amount of $121,885 paid monthly. And we do recommend approval of this resolution, which would authorize the mayor to sign the IGA. And I'm pleased to report we got this done before school started this year, so thank you.
Discussion?
May?
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead, sorry, guys.
I didn't have anything, sorry.
I just want to make a quick comment, is just to give kudos to this city, because I've been driving around to the different school districts and the break for the kids signs. I don't know if anyone else has seen them, but, and I'm sure it doesn't have anything to do with this, but I think that that's a good thing that we're doing, and especially with school starting up, I think that that's a really neat thing. So I just wanted to give kudos for that.
Okay. Marcy?
I didn't have anything, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just wondering if Jim could share with us the names of the officers that are going to these 3 different schools.
Actually, they're kind of vets as SROs. Ron Behrens is at Northglenn Middle. Chris Miller is at the Vantage Point School. And then Paul Scadam is down at Northglenn High School. So this is Paul's last year. So we're going to test for the position. So we assume more people will put in for next year. But he's been in there almost 7 years. So he's done a great job. He coaches down there. He does that Safe Street Halloween, which is amazing. So we have great SROs, and they get along really well with their principals, and they do a lot of stuff for the kids in the school. So that's who they are.
I think I might have missed it. So do they have just a certain number of years that they do it? Is that what you meant by?
Normally, it's I think it's a 4-year rotation.
Oh, okay.
However, you know, with such a young department, some of those younger officers haven't jumped into that. But I think as they're maturing in their career as police officers, they're looking for other opportunities. So I think in the next couple of years, when those officers come to the end of their terms, I think they're going to jump in there, and so we're going to have some new faces in the schools. But
Cool.
those 3 have done a great job for me. So
Great.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Thanks, Jim. All right, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 82 passes unanimously.
All right, next is CR 83.
A resolution authorizing assignment to the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority of a private activity bond allocation of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, pursuant to the Colorado Private Activity Bond Ceiling Allocation Act.
Move to approve.
Second?
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Again, this is a resolution signing the 2017 private activity bond allocation to the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. Every year we receive an allocation of bond capacity or bond cap that would benefit the community. And in 2017, our allocation is almost $2 million. These are tax-exempt bonds that are issued by public entities. In this case, could be the City of Northglenn, to provide low-cost financing for private projects. And there's a list of various projects that are eligible for these bonds. As in years past, $2 million is really not a large enough amount to really do a bond underwriting, and so we typically give the allocation to a community or a organization that can do more good with it. So in this case, we're recommending we give it to CHAFA so they can use it for qualified residential rental projects, single-family mortgage revenue bonds, and then mortgage credit certificates. And just by way of anecdote, I know historically we've received a much greater return than that, if you will, investment, in that a lot of people have bought homes in our community using that CHAFA program, usually exceeding the bond cap that we give to CHAFA. So we are recommending approval of this resolution tonight.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, Marcy?
Mayor, I think Kim has asked this question or has given us the answer before, but there's no guarantee that the $2 million goes to housing that is here, or is it?
That's absolutely correct. There is no guarantee. We could have it all go to Thornton residents, for example.
Anyone else? All right, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 83 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next is CR 85.
A resolution approving a design-build contract between the City of Northglenn and Bryan Power Generation for the water treatment plant generator relocation project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Jim?
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Again, this is a resolution to approve a contract for the water treatment plant generator relocation project. And as the title of the memo alludes to, this is related to the Ralston House site planning. So this is part of our commitment to the other communities that we would take efforts to move the generator out of the way where the new house would be built. And we budgeted accordingly for that. There were two proposals that were received. One was Bryan Power Generation of $182,784, and that's who we're recommending we award the contract to. Largely, they're a company that specializes in generators and generator relocations. The other bidder was Sturgeon Electric, which came in at a bid of $484,000. Now, they're a typical general electric contractor, and so they don't specialize in these generators, and so we think we got a very good price from the specialist company. I do want to point out in the memo, too, that we still have enough money appropriated in there to fully fund our obligations in the IGA as it's currently written, which is 75%. And if we go to 100% funding, which is more likely, we have enough money to cover that as well. So we do recommend approval, which would authorize the mayor to execute the contract between the city and Bryan Power Generation in the amount of $182,784, as well as some changes in the scope of work would authorize me to go to a total expenditure amount of $219,341 if any contingency is needed.
Discussion? Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 85 passes unanimously.
Okay, next is CR 86.
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of Northglenn and Hallmark Incorporated for the 2017 minor drainage repairs project.
Move to approve.
Second. Discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Again, this is a resolution to approve a contract for storm drainage improvement known as our minor projects. On June 6th, we had an invitation for bid. We had 8 contractors at the pre-bid, 4 actually submitted bids. The base bids range from $34,000 to $109,000. Unfortunately, the low bidder did not return the required addendum, and so they were deemed unresponsive. So the next low bidder was Hallmark Incorporated with a base bid of $94,580. And we do recommend approval of that resolution, which would include a 10% contingency. So the mayor would be authorized to sign the contract in the amount of $94,580 with a contingency of $9,458.
Thank you. Discussion? Hearing none, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 86 passes unanimously.
All right. Next, we have discussion items, and the first one is the second quarter 2017 work plan update. Jim? I guess you can just stay up there for both of them, right?
Right, exactly.
All right.
Thank you. I can do this right this time. All right. Well, I've got a lot of slides here, and you've got all the detail in your packet, so I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. I'm sure you don't want to hear me talk about the work plan for an hour, hour and a half, even though I probably could. So I just wanted to highlight for you again that the 2017 work plan was intended to track major projects, operational initiatives, as well as some operational data. And so doing these presentations quarterly really to provide summary information for you as well as for the public that might be looking at this at home to see what we're up to with our annual budget. Each project is aligned with City Council goals, and we're collecting data either quarterly or annually depending on the data source. But it's really allowed us to start looking at some trends, and I think in 6 to 9 months we're going to have really good data where we can look at some things over multiple years. So I'm going to hit these relatively quickly. Like I said, you've seen a lot of this before, and although you'll see some dates on here that may have occurred in the past, June 30th was the end of the quarter, and so you'll see some things here that might be the next 90 days, like on the Justice Center, foundation design and floor slabs. Well, we're happy to report that's done, and steel has arrived on site and it's being erected already. So good update. I think we've had those periodically on the Justice Center. Ralston House, again, within the last quarter, we did not get the DOLA grant, but happy to report that we've been able to finish the revised design to add back in the conference room. And we're going to be working on finalizing the IGA amendment with the communities again. Happy to report on this that all but 2 have appropriated the full amount for 2017. And so I'm pretty confident we can get everyone back to the table and get it done by the end of the year and hopefully get this out in the street, get it bid. Civic Campus, again, we've had a lot of discussion about that. You've seen these highlights before. We have retained BRS to do a public engagement process for the rec center, and that will kick off with our first steering committee or advisory group meeting on September 13th. Now to some data. I'm pleased to report that we had 0 days of facility closures due to unplanned maintenance, but you'll see there was a lot of things there that were also unplanned this last quarter, including 92 irrigation break repairs and 45 hours of staff time fixing those repairs. Also about 200 hours of staff doing playground repairs and vandalism to some of our playgrounds. So a lot of time is spent on this effort annually, maintaining these parks in our community. On the proactive side, I would just highlight a couple things there. You'll notice that the cracked ceiling, we've already exceeded our annual goal. We probably won't do a lot more than that because our street replace or repair program is coming in right behind them. So we'll have that completed. We've exceeded our annual goal of lane miles of street sweeping as well as jetting pipe throughout the community. No snow plowing in Q2. I'm sure we would have remembered that. Trash and recycling services, again, a great figure here is 95% fleet readiness. We had a little dip in the spring before we had the truck replaced, but we're happy to say that we've had 95% readiness and no missed pickups, which means if we miss one, we'll go back and get it. So, goal 2, again, some operational initiatives. These are largely in the police department. The records management system, there's been some data tables that have to put together. It's been a very complex process. That's spilling into probably the Q4 this year, but it'll be substantially done in the Q3. The public safety policy procedure manual, we had that about 35% of the way done in the Q1, and again, that's a 2017 goal to get that accomplished. Post-training, I would just mention that we've completed our 2 years of requirements and we're fully in compliance, and so now we kick off the next 2 years. It's kind of a rolling cycle where we're always having to maintain our compliance there. Another thing you may have heard about is our Recreation Center software. We had some challenges with the ticketing module. I understand that those are being worked out. If it's not fully functional now, it's very close. We worked with the vendor in our IT department and Parks and Rec and theater staff have done a good job of getting that fixed up. Water policy, again, we talked about the waste of water ordinance in front of you as well as the water restrictions that we've done and the public communication effort that is underway with that. I would point out something I sent out on Friday, might have been Saturday morning. It was a link to the new web pages for water and for our capital projects. And just a great job by John and communications to pull that together. And not quite live yet, I don't think, but I wanted to give you the sneak preview last week. Capital project financing, again, we've talked a lot about that in our study sessions, but we'll be looking at implementing that essentially as part of the 2018 budget adoption next quarter. Some interesting data here. I would point out the first 4 items under senior programs. You notice that we're greater than 50% of our goal for the year. So a good example, we've had well over 12,000 visits to the Silver Sneakers program. We target 24,000 every year, so we're ahead of the pace, if you will. Recreation programs, again, those are kind of tracking right along where we would expect them to be. Membership scans are up, and you'll see those field rentals and pavilion bookings. Those will normalize as the weather gets colder, of course, as you get into the third and Q4. And then again, the theater is also exceeding expectations in terms of participants and booking days. Here's an interesting table I always like to include. We're on track to exceed the goal in all of these categories. Well exceeding mobile visitors, 78,000, so we're on track to exceed that goal. Page views is up as well. So I think we're right on track to make that 2% increase we're looking for. Turnover, interesting number. We always try to shoot for 10% or less. We're at 5.5 through the second quarter. But I'm really pleased about this workers' comp number. Last year we had 34 workers' comp claims, and this year through the first half of the year we're down to 11. So again, it's all about safety, making sure people go home safely at night, but it also helps our insurance rates because it's a 3-year rolling calendar. And so the more years we can have like this, the better off we're going to be. Economic development, again, I would mention that Hutensky Capital Partners, HCP, has executed their letter of intent to purchase the property at the marketplace. We've actually got a meeting internally with some of their folks on Thursday this week. They've retained some consultants, both in the engineering, planning, real estate side of things, and so we're going to be talking with them about some of our expectations. We've already given them a white paper which outlines some of the vision and what we're maybe willing to help with from a NERA standpoint. So we think this is getting more and more real as the weeks go on, that this property will close and we'll have a new owner there that we can do something with. Huron Center, big accomplishment in the second quarter. Seems like a long time ago, but April 10th is when we actually got that agreement done. And so next 90 days, again, these things have already happened. Acquisition and closing by Evergreen did occur July 7th. They actually started construction pretty soon thereafter. A lot of it was exterior on the roof, doing some interior things like that. But you'll see a lot more activity outside in the coming weeks, which will culminate with the big groundbreaking August 24th. And keep this project moving forward with the 3 main tenants we've been talking about. Mentioned earlier tonight the Starbucks over at the Garland Center. So again, they've acquired that property and working through the entitlement process. And of course, the other Starbucks at the Belco property is underway as well. The NERA property behind the Malley Center. This property is now officially under contract. There's a purchase and sale agreement. They're still doing their due diligence. That will probably wrap up here in the next several weeks, and hopefully there'll be a closing by the end of the year on that property. Wells Fargo is continuing their improvements over there. A lot of investments, several $1 million of private investment, coupled with a several $100,000 incentive by NERA. And of course, we're continuing to manage the Brownfields grant. We have about $70,000 that get carried over to next year, but we expended a lot of resources on that grant program so far this year. Just a few highlights of economic development. Economic development marketing was a specific work plan item this year, and so this is just an example of some of the things we've been doing. All this occurred in the second quarter. Some of it is not one-time things. We're talking about increasing social media activity. Debbie and her team are also working on developing content for the ED website, which will then tie into our citywide website improvements that we're making. Some quick data here. Again, we've had a lot of prospect activity. I think the economy is still going quite well, so we're exceeding our goal there. Everything else is pretty much tracking as we expected. Did have the BRE visits that we needed to for the year. We'll be continuing those as we keep moving forward. Building permits. Again, the big project this year, of course, is the Justice Center. And so we've got a lot of valuation there. Thing I would point out is we've had almost $1 million in residential permits as well, about 116 residential permits just in the second quarter. So people are making investments in their homes as well, because those are substantial to require a permit. It could be as simple as a water heater, but if you're talking about an addition, a garage, things like that, they can be pretty substantial. The land use entitlement, I want to point out this number. This is more of a rolling calendar number. So at the end of 2016, we had 17 in process, and right now we have about 12 in the what I call the pipeline, if you will, that eventually some of those will come to you. So moving forward with government policy, again, we're moving forward with the budget and the work plan as evidenced last week with our discussion. The Legislative Policy Committee has been meeting bi-weekly through the second quarter, through the end of the session. Then we switched to a monthly meeting. Big accomplishment, built a good coalition to introduce, testify, and pass HB 17-1203, which is the marijuana tax legislation. Monitored several other bills, and we scheduled the legislative dinner as well for October 30th. So the committee met again tonight. We think we're going to have a legislative policy draft for you to look at next month for 2018, so we can be ahead of the curve a little bit for that dinner coming up. Sponsorship and outside agency funding, again, the committee's been meeting to discuss that, and there's been some budget enhancements. I would point out that there was $10,000 in the city manager's budget for sponsorships. That's going to be moved over to the OAF, and I think the OAF increased then another $5,000. So we're going from about $15,000 in grants that will be eligible for that committee up to about $30,000 in next year's budget. And so I think it's working pretty well at this point. RTD Fast Tracks IGA, again, these are monthly project meetings, continuing the local match planning. This is the Dr. Cock TIP grant that will provide the access to the station. A couple things that you adopted in the second quarter was the new sign code, as well as the nuisance regulations update. So I think a lot of good feedback during that process, and that's been adopted and completed. Again, this is a Q3 thing, but the telephone town hall, August 3rd. We're hoping to do 2 events this year, but really we only had the budget for 1. So if you like, we can look at doing more of those next year. I think it was pretty successful this time around. Web analytics, just some highlights here. Up to 2,400 Twitter followers. You can see kind of how we're trending from 2016 to 2017. That pun was intended since Twitter trends, right? Okay. 20. Okay, thank you. 2,700 Facebook followers, again, steadily increasing there. And we had a lot more web visits than we did in the first quarter as well. The other thing I wanted to point out here is that we set an annual goal to have an earned media mention about once a week, so 52 per year. And the idea of that is not something that we are reacting to, but something we are proactively trying to get the newspaper or some other media to pick up. And we had 59 of these earned media mentions in the first half of this year, so well ahead of our goal. We'll have to reset that a little higher next year probably. Community vitalization, again, the master plan was completed and adopted in the first quarter, but related to this is the zoning code rewrite, the phase 2. We had a good re-kickoff session with all of you, and we'll be bringing back that next module, I think, in October. So again, that project's moving forward. Huron Street vitalization, walking tour occurred in the first quarter, but we had a good discussion with you in April, and we've got the contract approved. I think it's going to kick off in September, and so that'll make a lot of improvements out there, purely aesthetic though, nothing to the road surface itself. The City Hall space assessment, again, you approved the contract there. We'll kick that project off in the first quarter of next year, but that is a real important step for what we're going to do with the main floor of this building when the police department moves out. We're continuing our development of the marketing plan phase 1. Again, we're in the data collection phase and trying to identify what marketing efforts are going on throughout the city, because it's very decentralized at this point. And so once we get that data, we're going to be quickly transitioning this quarter into the development of the marketing plan, again, which will be a broad-based discussion. We'll be bringing that back for a lot of details from you as well. Branding and logo implementation is ongoing. Again, this is a multi-year effort, so we had some building signs replaced, vehicles with decals have been added where appropriate. We've got apparel business card vendors selected. Several other, I would say, small projects have been completed. And again, we're ongoing tracking of all our expenditures that are directly related to the logo and the branding to make sure that we're adhering to the budget. And I think the overarching comment I would make is that we're not replacing things until they need to be replaced. So if someone has a shirt that works just fine, we'll replace that as that needs to be replaced. Same thing with decals, street signs, things like that. The website, again, you approved the contract to select revise in the second quarter. And we do have some design concepts that are very close to being able to show to you of how the layout would look. And I think we're targeting in September on that. And we're really making a lot of significant progress on the design and the functionality of the website. Channel 8, we've procuring the new equipment that will be used for the enhancements that will be funded through the Comcast PEG. I won't call it a grant, I'll call it an advance of our funds that we would be collecting. Neighborhood services, the only thing I really want to point out with this figure here is that it really demonstrates we have a higher volume of cases and violations than in years past. If you really double those numbers through the second quarter, it's going to exceed what we did last year, the last couple of years. But what isn't increasing necessarily is the number of citations or summons that are being written into court, which to me tells me that it's a higher level of compliance. We're getting a lot more activity out there, but we're getting a higher level of compliance just based on those ratios that you would see there. Goal 6, last but not least, healthy eating, active living. Again, a lot of great things happened in the second quarter. The coordination of the bike rodeo with the kids fishing derby, again, kind of the same audience. I think that was really successful. Parks and trails wayfinding, unfortunately, we did not get a grant we were going for, but we were looking at those elements in the bike ped master plan in terms of an implementation. And then the Snowstormers Business Challenge, again, we recognized 3 businesses at last year's breakfast, and we'll hopefully be able to do that again. Had those 3 community classes in May, which I think were very well received on beekeeping, chicken keeping, and gardening, and there were 3 separate classes that we had on those, very well attended. Bike ped mobility, again, you've seen this in the study session before, but we had the public meeting on May 10th. We had 170 responses online, 6 mobile meetings, and I think from the telephone town hall, we had just as many that responded to the poll question about it, which maybe weren't necessarily bike people, but we had a lot of people that responded to that question about should we invest transportation dollars into bike ped mobility improvements. And it was kind of split compared to maybe what the bike riders submitted, but 30% had no opinion, 50% said yes. So I think that's something to work on there. The Parks and Rec Master Plan, again, if you recall back a year ago, we had put a request in to consider hiring a consultant to do that. Pleased to report that staff took this upon themselves this year to do this update. And really, it's an operational plan as opposed to maybe a capital improvement plan. But that's very close to being approved. It's going to go to the Parks Board and then for you for final approval here this quarter. Public safety. I do want to mention we're slightly ahead of calls for service, but the incident reports, arrests, traffic accidents are actually down compared to last year. Again, if you look at 631 times 2, that would be the number for the year potentially. And citations are ahead of last year. So we had 5,700 last year and 3,200 through the first 6 months of this year. So I know it was rapid fire, but I'll take any questions you may have.
Questions? Yes, Antonio.
Yes, Jim, we're having the groundbreaking on the 24th of August at the Huron Center. Has the grocer that's going in there committed to releasing who they are prior to the groundbreaking?
Not yet, no.
Is there a possibility to prod them to do that before the groundbreaking?
I'm gonna look at Debbie. I know she prods them daily, but is there any chance they will be able to go public at that point?
We do follow up with them literally every couple days.
I mean, it would be nice, if you're having a groundbreaking and you're doing something, it'd be nice for them to be there and to, be recognized.
Exactly. We'll continue to work on it.
Any other questions, comments? Marcy?
I was going to save it for communications, but I'll just ask right now. So you mentioned that we were replacing things with the new branding as needed. So I'm just curious, the sign out front for the city, where it just now has our address because we took the logo off, is there a plan to at least get our name back on there?
Yes. Well, the name City Hall is on there, and I think it says Northglenn, but we don't have the logo out there.
I think it says City Hall, but I don't think it said Northglenn. But I'll look on the way out. I thought it just said City Hall, but.
I know we had some challenges in affixing things to the brick.
Got it. Okay.
But we're absolutely working on it to try to get it done.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, Jim.
All right. Thank you. Well, I'll go right into the CIP, and this will be much more interesting because there's pictures with it. So
How many slides?
much less on top of that. So again, I've only done this twice, if you will. I did this in February and then doing it again in August. We can do it quarterly if necessary, but I think 6 months gives a good example of, some progress we've made here. So I'm going to run through the projects by department and then give you kind of a look ahead and where we're at with the various phases of the projects here. So again, in capital maintenance, Parks has completed the Webster Lake Fountain. They're working on the pedestrian bridge repair at Croak and citywide fence maintenance, which I'll be following up on after this meeting. And then capital improvements. Fox Run Open Space is completed. A great event out there, I know, with the kids from the school there to kick that off. The Theater Recreation Center marquee. We do have a location identified now that we have the Civic Campus Master Plan done. And so, it'll get replaced out here. We do have some funds from CDOT as well to make that happen. Northwest Open Space Facility Improvements, you've heard a lot about that project. I'll mention where we're at in a moment. And then we've got several other, I would say, smaller projects, but equally important is the Rotary Park Dugout, Village Greens Park, the Webster Lake Promenade sculpture, and then a big one that you're going to be seeing in a couple of weeks is the Kiwanis Pool, the splash pad, and there'll be a design contract coming in front of you in a couple of weeks here. So again, some great pictures from the Fox Run Open Space with some of the finished product and the interpretive signage. Kids planting trees. It was a good day out there. We got that completed. Public Works. Again, they have their own capital maintenance program. 3 of these are standard annual projects. The residential street program, traffic signal program, and concrete and then greenway trail program. So those are underway. The Marketplace pedestrian bridge repair, I'll give you an update on that here in just a minute too. Big capital improvements that we'll be looking at. The parks maintenance facility, we have bid that out. Hoping to get the bids back by the end of August. And so we'll be bringing that back in front of you. 99th Avenue reconstruction. Related to the water line over there where it sank a little. We had this on the budget for this year anyway to resurface that street. We're hoping that'll be done. I think September is the finish date for that. School zone construction, which in this case is a lot of signage and so forth. That was well underway before the school year started. Marketplace utility study is complete. Ralston House, of course, is a big project for Public Works. The Justice Center, and then 112th Avenue Station is for the tip improvements. And again, these are kind of a planning public work combo project where planning's taking the lead on the front end, and then Public Works will implement over time. So again, just some pictures of our concrete repair program, give you an example of the things that we do out there where we see sections of sidewalk and things that are cracked and broken, they will get replaced. I'm not going to go through these 3 slides in any great detail, just so you've got them so you can see kind of a snapshot of where we are with the various projects. And I do want to point out that at the, let me get the laser here. At any rate, the first 3 phases there talk about concept, design, concept completion, and some projects actually end there. So you might have a conceptual design for a park or something like that. It might end there. We might not have additional funding for design or construction, but a lot of the projects then will go to the next phase of design and then the 3rd phase of construction. So you can see where we're at with the various projects. We've got a lot of them moving well along for the year. Public Works has a similar diagram. Again, the traffic signal program kind of lags behind some of the road repair things because those can be done almost year-round. And then the one thing I want to point out there is the Marketplace transportation study is actually on hold pending the new ownership. We did the utility study. We transmitted that to the potential buyer, so they had that information, but we need to understand what the land uses are going to be there before we can really do a transportation study that makes a lot of sense. And then I include this on here too, which is really planning and development projects, but they are non-CIP, but they do require quite a bit of capital sometimes to implement these things. And these are the kind of products that will really end at that first phase. There's no real design or construction necessarily associated with them. But again, all these are moving along pretty well for the year. So quick look ahead, traffic signal program will probably be at the end of the year. Marketplace transportation study I mentioned is on hold. Looking at phase 2, conceptual design and getting an RFP out will be in the third quarter for the transportation improvements regarding the 112 station. Again, City Hall space assessment is kicked into the first quarter of next year. Concept has been essentially completed, if you will, on the zoning code rewrite. The total project will be completed in 2018, so we're in the process of finalizing that concept now and the code language. HEAL sustainability program is also in this phase. Design RFP is out, and again, you'll be seeing a contract in a couple weeks on that one. Northwest Open Space has moved into phase 5, where the design is essentially being completed at this point. And then we're working on grant funding to make sure we can actually do the construction out there, or at least the first phases of the construction. The Marketplace pedestrian bridge, this is also in the design completion phase. So we're in the process of figuring out the bid documents now for the construction cost itself. And again, this is a repair and maintenance type of effort, not a reconstruction or wholesale replacement. The utility study, as I mentioned, is complete. So again, these projects are now moving into the 6th phase of construction. We've got the Rotary Park dugout replacement, Village Green Parks equipment. Hopefully Ralston House is going to transition into a invitation to bid by the end of the year. And then the parks maintenance facility, as soon as we get those bids back, we're going to come back to you with that information because we know we have a certain budget, and so we're going to see what the market has responded to, what we put out there. And then a lot of things, again, they're in the construction completion phase. So I look at all these things getting completed this year with the exception of the Justice Center, which will of course be next year. And that's it. I'm open to any questions, as well as Amanda, David, or Becky, if you have specifics about some of their projects too.
Karen.
I don't have any questions, Jim, but I just want to applaud you for presenting these items, the CIP and the work plan, in the manner that you do. We've never had that as long as I've been on council, and I love being able to look at the progress, look at numbers. I think for new people that will be coming onto council, it is going to help them immensely having these documents to look at and see what's been going on, because if they weren't here like we were all, they would be in the dark. So I love that you're doing this. It helps me when I need to be reminded of something. So really, I applaud you bringing this to us. I love that this is here and ingrained, hopefully, into the culture of Northglenn now. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, Becky.
I'm going to throw some more praise on you, because I just want to say how thankful I am to the staff for getting the school zone signs out before the school year started. Love the placement of it. You know, that's one of my big deals. So please pass that on. I'm tickled purple. And the new signs, just, I know it's not the right time, but thank you. Those are awesome.
I'll pass it along to Brooke. He's not here tonight. It was his department's brainchild. So.
No.
But
I'll
I'll
give Brooke credit for that.
Okay. Well, he should have been here, right?
Absolutely. But thank you for taking those on and getting them done before the school started. I appreciate it.
All right. Anyone else? No? No? Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the positive feedback too. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Enjoy your vacation.
All right. Communications. We'll start with Antonio.
I have nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Marcy?
I have just a couple of things. I wanted to remind folks that you can now vote for People's Choice Award. So vote for your favorite Northglenn business, and you can do that by going to northglenn.org/business vote, and you have until September 8th at 5 p.m. to get that in. As a follow-up to that, the BRE committee has been working on the business appreciation breakfast. We've been looking at the selection for our speakers and save the date, and communications has been doing a great job in getting all those materials together. So be looking for your save the date coming out soon, and we look forward to all of our businesses joining us. And then I also wanted to say, Friday night, I was able to attend the Anything concert that they had at their 120th and Holly location. And It was a huge success. I mean, there were people everywhere. You could not find a place to sit. So congratulations to them. I know they've been working on that really hard. And that's it.
Thank you.
I just want to remind everybody that Magic Fest is coming up, and I'm not going to be there. So I'm going to really count on my fellow council people and mayor to, get out there. I know, I have a life. This one,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
This one upsets me, and I did look far enough ahead to see that I am going to be on for Pirate Fest.
Oh.
Arr. You know that's my favorite event. But just want to remind everybody to get out there and support the Magic Fest. And then let me know how it was, because I can't go and I can't go. So I'd like to know how it is. I think that's all I have right now.
All right, Carol.
I wanted to talk just a little bit about the CML Executive Board Retreat that was held here in Northglenn. There were so many moving parts to it, and I really need to thank a lot of the staff for helping get a lot of it done for me and help. Debbie, Jill, Margot, Susan Baca mainly, she really came up with some great ideas to fill a swag bag for 21 other municipal leaders. And it was very impressive in the end, and everyone loved it. Jim Hayes came to our retreat day and gave a really wonderful background and history of Northglenn and where we stand now, and everyone really enjoyed it, and they walked away with a very good understanding of Northglenn. It was great, and you did a really wonderful job. We held a reception at Bad Daddy's. They were wonderful to us. The day of the retreat was held at the Ice Cream Building, which is the independent electrical contractors of the Rocky Mountain. They were kind enough to loan us their event room, and it went off seamlessly. Typically, retreats are not my favorite thing, and honestly, for me personally, it was one of the best retreats ever. We got a lot accomplished, and we had Irv Halter from DOLA as our keynote speaker, and he was amazing. His speech was so inspiring. It was one of the best things I've experienced in a while. I'm sorry, I keep saying I'm going to stop. No, I did it again. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we also had dinner at Balustrade Vineyards. I tried to keep it very regional this time because Northglenn, sometimes we don't have the showcase items that a lot of the other cities have. So we used Balustrade Vineyards, and the mayor came. That was a really great event. We had breakfast at Webster Lake. We showcased the lake. Everybody was so impressed. I just want to thank really everybody because it's important to show off our city every now and then, and this was a great opportunity with 21 other municipalities present there. So Survey Monkey said it was a great retreat, so it's very good. Thank you very much, Jim. You really helped out a lot, so thank you. All right, back from that. I attended the concert last Wednesday, and it was Trouble in the Heartland. They were a Bruce Springsteen cover band, and they were wonderful, and I haven't stopped listening to Bruce Springsteen since. I haven't listened to Bruce since, I can't remember. I'm thinking college, but so if that dates me, I'm sorry, but it was a really good concert. And then this week on the 16th, Wednesday, it will be the Left Hand Shakes, and they are an alternative rock band from Denver. That is it. Thank you.
Great. Joe.
Good.
Yeah, so I wanted to speak a little bit about the Magic Fest. I'm excited for the 1920s, as I was mentioning before, to dress up and see what the costume looks like. In addition, I want to speak a little bit on what's happened in Charlottesville and express my sympathy and extend my prayers. I think what's happening across the country is awful, and I think that we're stronger together. And as we cannot let hate and bigotry define us, our diversity is our strength. And we must do everything we can to protect our values of liberty, religious freedom, and justice for all. My heart goes with them.
Thank you. Thank you. Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also looking forward to the Magic Fest, and just to speak, to follow Jordan up a little bit, there's no room for that type of hate or violence or bigotry in this country. And to see it is extremely sad, and I'm a leader in this community, and I will not stand by and let these types of groups, these hate groups, these KKK groups and neo-Nazi groups and whatever you want to call them, alt-right, try to flourish in our community or our country. And so
for whatever it's worth, they're not welcome here. I will fight tooth and nail if we see that in our community, and my heart goes out to Charlottesville, because to have to go through that is unimaginable and has no place in this country. So,
Thanks, Kyle. Joanna?
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Jim?
Just one thing, I'm going to be out of the office the balance of the week, so Mr. Willett has graciously volunteered to serve as the acting manager this week. I will be back Friday night late if you need me over the weekend.
Okay, thank you. Bonnie?
Just one item, and while this isn't directly a response to a citizen inquiry, I did provide you a memo today that unfortunately confirms what I thought was the case, which is the city does not have the ability to regulate the sign that had the profanity. That is a sign that is protected by the First Amendment, as objectionable as it may be to the community.
Thank you. It's unfortunate, but thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is public invited to be heard, up to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to speak to council for up to 3 minutes? Seeing no one approach, we are adjourned. Thank you.